बिस्मिल्लाहिर्रहमानिर्रहीम वसल्लल्लाहु अला नबील करीम रब्बि इश्रह ली सदरी वयस्सिर ली अमरी वहलुल उक़्दतम मिन लिसानी यफ़क़हू क़ौली. The theme for this morning is the importance of modesty in Islam. According to my study and my experience, modesty is the most important quality of a human being. This is the law of nature. And as Islam is a religion of nature, so modesty has a very special place in Islamic teachings. I can say that without modesty, there is no Islam. But it is a strange phenomenon that present Muslims don't know the value of modesty. According to my experience, every Muslim lives in the sense of pride. Everyone speaks the language of pride. Everyone says that I am proud that I am a Muslim. I am proud that I was born in a Muslim family. All the literatures depict Islam as a religion of pride. I have attended a lecture delivered by a Muslim scholar, a great Muslim scholar. So he was asked a question after his lecture. You said so many things about the pride content, about the pride content of Islam. Now those Muslims who are living in majority, those Muslims who are living as a minority in different countries. So what is your message to these minority Muslims? He said, after a pause, he said that it is a very difficult question. It is a very difficult question. Then he said, in Islam, we have the model of strength, but in Islam, there is no model of position of modesty. In Islam, we have the model of position of strength, but in Islam, we have no model of position of modesty. This answer was very strange, because all the teachings of Islam are based on modesty. First of all, we believe, we say in our kalima, La ilaha illallah. There is no God but one God. This is the kalima of Islam. La ilaha illallah. There is no God but one God. But what it means? It means that the greatness is only for God. There is no great but one great. So greatness is only for God. We are not great. So when we are not great, it means that we are modest. When greatness is not our quality, then the other position is that our quality is modesty. Even the word Islam itself has the connotation of modesty. Why? Islam means submission, surrender. So what is submission and what is surrender? It is modesty. So Islam means religion of modesty. Islam means religion of modesty. Then you know the most important worship in Islam is salat, that is namaz. We perform 5 times a day. Salat is the most important worship in Islam, which is performed 5 times every day. So what is salat? If you visit a mosque and see the scene of congregational prayer. In every mosque, Muslims organize congregational prayer. So if you visit a mosque and see the scene of congregational prayer, you will find that one imam is leading the salat, and except one, all are standing behind imam in row. It means that salat means except one, all must go to back seat. This is congregational prayer. Except one, all have to go to back seat, to back seat, to back seat. So back seat is so in Islam, back seat is rule, and seat of imam is an exception. So this is Islam. There is no exaggeration to say that Islam is the religion of modesty. Religion of modesty. But the problem is that our history was written in the language of pride. The title of our history books is like this: Futuh Sham, victories in Syria; Futuhul Buldan, victories in countries. So when you read history, you read the victories of when you read history, you read the history of victories. So it is. So when you say that Islam is a religion of pride, this Islam is derived not from Islamic scriptures, but from Islamic history, from Muslims' history. This concept that Islam is a religion of pride is derived from Muslims' history rather than Islamic scriptures. So this is the tragedy that for present Muslims, the source is their history rather than the Islamic scriptures. So according to my study, I have derived my Islamic concept from its scriptures, not from its history. I have derived my concept of Islam from its scriptures, that is Al-Quran, that is Hadith literature, that is the life of the Prophet of Islam, that is the examples of the companions of the Prophet. This is the original source of Islam, and I have derived my Islam from this original source. So I found that Islam is religion of modesty. Islam is religion of patience. Islam is religion of peace. Islam is religion of tolerance. This is the true picture of Islam. This is the true picture of Islam. Then this picture is quite in accordance with the nature. Nature is world of modesty. In the vast universe, in the vast space, there are numerous bodies. All the bodies are moving according to their distinct path. They never go out of their orbit. All the planets, all the stars, including our Earth, are completely moving under control. So, this is the modesty. You cannot find anywhere in the world pride and arrogance. The whole space, the whole universe is a scene of, presents a scene of modesty. So nature itself is based on modesty. And as Islam is a religion of nature, Islam is also based on modesty. The Prophet of Islam has said, Man tawaza rafa'ahullah. Man tawaza rafa'ahullah. One who follows the way of modesty, he will be elevated by God. One who follows the path of modesty, he will be elevated by God. Man tawaza rafa'ahullah. The same is mentioned in the Quran in these words. As-sulhu khair. As-sulhu khair means reconciliation is the best. Reconciliation is the best. Now, what is reconciliation? It is method of modesty. Reconciliation on unilateral basis. As-sulhu khair means reconciliation on unilateral basis is best policy. So, reconciliation on unilateral basis is nothing but modesty. If you are proud, you cannot follow this principle. If you are proud, you cannot follow this path of reconciliation on unilateral basis. It requires modesty. It needs modesty to follow this path. So Quran says, As-sulhu khair. Reconciliation on unilateral basis is the best policy. And who are those who will follow this policy? Only modest people. Proud people cannot follow this policy. So all the teachings of Islam are based on the principle of modesty. There is a verse in the Quran, وَعِبَادُ الرَّحْمَنِ الَّذِينَ يَمْشُونَ عَلَى الْأَرْضِ هَوْنًا. This verse you can read in the chapter Luqman. It means that true believers are those who walk on earth with modesty. وَعِبَادُ الرَّحْمَنِ الَّذِينَ يَمْشُونَ عَلَى الْأَرْضِ هَوْنًا. True believers are those who walk on earth with modesty. This is the true picture of Islam. This is the true picture of Mu'min. the true picture of Muslim. There is a saying, well-known saying, that there are always room at the top. There is always room at the top. It is a well-known saying that there is always room at the top. But I would like to say that the better saying, the better formula is quite contrary. That is, there is always room at the back seat. There is always room at the back seat. It's a better formula. Why? Occupy the top seat requires topper. If you are topper, then you can occupy the top seat. Otherwise, no. There is always room at the top means if you are a topper, then you will easily find a seat on the top. So this formula is useful for those people who are toppers, and they are very few. But my formula is useful for everyone. There is always room at the back seat. Why? Back seat means going to the opportunities. Top seaters are achievers. Those who are top seaters, they are achievers. But those who take back seat, they will find abundance of opportunities. So going to back seat means going to opportunity. Going to back seat means going to opportunity. But very few people know this formula. This is the formula of nature as well. This is the formula of nature as well as this is the formula of Islam. There is always room at the back seat. This is the formula of nature as well as this is the formula of Islam. The best formula, which is useful for everyone. Now, I would like to say that in every situation there are two possibilities. In every situation, there are two possibilities. One in terms of actual, and the second in terms of potential. In every situation, there are some actuals and there are some potentials. So in every situation, there are two kinds of possibilities. One in terms of actual, and the second in terms of potential. People generally opt for actual. They run after actual. Why? Because actual is observable. Everyone can see the actuals. But potential is hidden. Potential is unseen world. Potential pertains in unseen world. So it requires great wisdom to see the hidden potentials. Everyone can see the actuals. Everyone can see the actuals because it is observable. But few people can see the actual because it is in the world unseen. It is hidden at that time. Before availing, every potential is unseen. So it requires a great wisdom to see the potential. So only though, so here is a very important point. It requires modesty to see the potential. Those who are deprived of modesty, they cannot see the potentials. Without modesty, you cannot go to back seats, and it requires to go back seat. If you want to understand the potentials, if you want to avail the potentials, you have to go to back seat. So it requires modesty. The best example of this principle is the best example of this principle you can see in the event of Hudaybiyah. Hudaybiyah agreement was finalized during the lifetime of the Prophet. So what was Hudaybiyah agreement? Hudaybiyah agreement was going to back seat, because Prophet wanted to go to Makkah to perform Umrah. Prophet with 1400 companions. The Prophet of Islam accompanying 1,400 Muslims wanted to go to Makkah to perform Umrah. But when he reached to Hudaybiyah, a place near to Makkah, he was warned by the Meccan people, you cannot enter in Makkah, otherwise we will kill you. Quraysh were leader of Makkah. Quraysh were ruler of Makkah at that time. And Quraysh were idol worshippers. Quraysh was a tribe. So they gave ultimatum that we are not going to allow you to enter Makkah. You have to return to Medina. Then after 15 days of negotiation, there was a settlement. Prophet was agreed to return to Medina, and in the agreement it was an article was included that there will be no war up to 10 years between Muslims and Quraysh. So Prophet of Islam returned from Masjid Hudaybiyah to Medina, instead going to Makkah. It was returned to back seat. It was to return to back seat, because he and Muslims wanted to go to Makkah, but they decided to return to Medina from Hudaybiyah. It was like returning to back seat, but the result was miraculous. After 2 years, the number of Muslims increased to such an extent that they became 10,000. At that time, they were 1,400. But after 2 years, they became 10,000. So Islam became a dominant group in Arabia, a dominant group. So this was the miracle of retreat. The miracle of retreat. Prophet of Islam opted retreat. He returned from Hudaybiyah to Medina. That was clearly a case of going to backseat. But the result was miraculous. He was able to march to Mecca only after 2 years. He was able to march to Mecca, a victorious march. He was able to organize a victorious march from Medina to Mecca. And then Quraysh has no power to say that we are not going to allow you to go to Mecca. They became helpless. After 2 years, Quraysh people became helpless. So this is the miracle of going to backseat. So general formula is there is always room at the top. But I would like to say that according to the law of nature, according to the Islamic teachings, there is always room at the back seat. Then I would like to give a recent two comparative example. You know, Prophet of Islam was born in Mecca in 560 AD. Then he was appointed as prophet in 610. And after his death, Muslims were able to establish Khilafat. And this Khilafat continued from Medina to Damascus, and then to Baghdad, to Spain, and to Turkey. In the final stage, the center of Khilafat was Turkey, in the final stage. So, there was Khalifatul Muslimin. At that time, there was Khalifatul Muslimin, and he was virtually ruler of all Muslim territory in Africa, and all the Arab countries. And he was virtually the ruler of all the Muslim countries. So he was Khalifatul Muslimin. He was center of, at that time, Turkey was center of Islam, center of Muslims, center of Muslim politics, center of Muslim culture. So at that time, Khalifatul Muslimin, at that time, Turkey was the center of Khalifatul Muslimin. Then what happened? In the First World War, Turkey joined with Germany. And you know, Germany was defeated, and also Turkey was defeated. So after this defeat, the whole empire was shattered. It was a great setback to the Khilafat. Then you know, there was national movement in every country throughout the world. People wanted to establish national governments. In India also, and also in all the Arab countries. So national movements were a great menace to the Khilafat, because Khilafat was like an Islamic empire, like an Islamic empire. But now people wanted to establish national governments in every country.